Hey everybody, it's me, your host, Halfd0rk. Welcome to the SandStorm Meetup. So today, we're going to be working on part 2 of our trading card game. So this is a game where we left off with just kind of the overall user interface. This is pretty much everything you're looking at, what we finished last Monday. And we essentially have a couple different beasts or kind of like Pokemon creatures. And then we started with a deck and a discard pile, and finally like a hand, so our card hand. And then at the very bottom, kind of like an essence or a mana, a way to track, your resources is the best way to describe it. So yeah, that's what we're going to be getting into today, and just kind of like working our way through making a card game, because a card game is not something that comes natural to the Sandbox ecosystem. But welcome everybody to the SandStorm Meetup. I'm Halfd0rk. We're going to go over a little bit of news before we get started. The first tidbit is there is a new Sandbox Sandstorm Builder Contest. This is the 17th of which we're going to take a quick peek at this. Welcome in. Slater Aid's here. What's up, Slater? Garnican, welcome. So with this upcoming Builders Contest, or actually already started. You can get started on this today. The deadline is October 28th. Prize pool of 5,000 sand. You are to create a faithful pet for the TSB adventures, but it's got to be unusual, a mythical creature. So a pet and a mythical creature. The first thing that comes to mind is like miniatures of the common Greek animals, or like a Hydra or Cerberus, or like a Griffin, like a little miniature, something to follow you around. That's the first thing that came to mind. But we'll take a quick look at the rules here. In this Sandbox, the Sandbox Vox Edit contest hosted by Sandstorm, we've got a total budget of 5,000 Matic. So the mystical creatures in the Sandbox pets are important parts of our lives. They are part of our family. Here's a new mission for all of you builders. Bring pets to the Metaverse. It is said that man's best friend is the dog, but in reality, it can be any animal, a cat, a frog, a rabbit, maybe even a dragon. You're only limited by your creativity. So the challenge is to create that faithful partner to join you in the TSB adventure. Be careful. It's got to be something different, unusual, a mythical, fantastical creature. I'm sure you guys will think of something really fun. Only needs 2 custom animations. That'll save you a lot of time. So if anybody plans on competing, only 2 custom animations. Deadline's Friday, October 28th. So you got a little bit under 2 weeks. First place, 2,500 sand. Up to 5th place, we'll get you some prizes. But of course, you'll be able to be shown your portfolio on the Sandstorm website. So do check it out. Poke around the website if that's something that you're interested in. You can see everybody uploads their artwork, their voxel assets. It's a great way to showcase, everything you've been making in the space. Garnican's here. Cynthia, welcome, Cynthia. Hologram, Wicked, you too. CT, how's it going, friends? Welcome. So, yeah, with the news out of the way, we're going to be kind of stumbling our way through our card game mechanics. So, again, I'd like to open the floor to anybody that has questions in the Game Maker. As many of you know, I have been active in the Sandbox community as a game maker, game developer for about 10 months now. I kind of started like end of December. So yeah, a little over 10 months. So if you guys have questions, I am happy to answer them. I'm happy to troubleshoot with you, walk you through it, using this interactive Twitch platform as a way to, provide answers. So feel free. Hey, Cold Cuts, what's up? Fred and Ferd, welcome. So yeah, without further ado, the first thing that I want to work on is kind of making a card. So this little fireball down here, just underneath the player, much like this carpet where you can pick it up and drag and drop it on things. Let me turn off my memes real quick. Outside of that, there's also the mechanics that involve using a card. So there's a lot of trial and error that we're going to have to do, such as when I use this card and bring it to the frog for it to deal damage, but also to spawn the card that has been used on the right side of the screen. Other things of note is like what happens if you drop it? What happens if you destroy it? So you saw I was able to attack it. And then what happens after I play a card? How do I end the turns? That's another thing that you have to make. There's a lot of things that go into ending, your turn as a player in a card game. So a lot of these things we're going to be just like figuring out as we go. But again, just opening the floor to anybody if you have questions, just relative general to whatever we're doing, feel free to ask. So yeah, let's see what we can do about making a card. So what I need to do is decide on a name. So I have this little space here for a name. And then I also want there to be a space for like the amount it costs in resources. And I'm tracking my resources using hearts. So these are going to be my resources. I'm going to have 2 of them. And we're going to have a indicator component that kind of notes it. And so a lot of these things are, we're going to be figuring out as we go. So just taking a look at it, we can see I have hearts at the bottom of my screen. Those are currently my resources. But I want one to be removed when I use a card. So when a card is destroyed from my hand. So how can we set this up? Hey VVox, welcome in. Grady, how you doing? Welcome in. Oh, thanks for saying hi. Thanks for popping in. So if I'm using a card from my hand, it's consuming resources. So by destroying it, so it's going to have a health component, because that's using a health component is practically one of the few ways we can document something. My cat thinks I'm talking to myself. Say hi. Okay. So we're going to be spawning it to the tag. This is our tag over here, the discard.pile. So discard.pile, that's where it's going to respawn after it's killed. We want to hide the health bar. We also really do not want the player to kill it. That's the main problem. If the player kills our card, they're essentially consuming a few things. So we can see we have a couple messages that we left off with the last time we played, or last time we started developing. We had an attack 1 death message. I'm just going to delete this for now. And we're kind of starting from scratch in a way. So I want to pick it up. So I'm picking up this card. I need a pickup component. Card itself is called tcgfire.heat spray. I'm going to give it a couple, we'll use number pads just so it's easier for everyone to understand, like, oh, this is an asset that has logic on it. They're small, they don't get in the way. We can hide these, so we'll make them invisible. For now, I'm actually just going to put it underneath. Well, actually, I won't put it underneath. That'll make it harder to click on. So I copy-pasted the name of my heat spray. And we're probably going to be making a preset out of this. So this is going to be resource cost. We're going to have another one that says heat spray title. And then at the very bottom of the card, it's going to be what it does. So these are the 3 indicators that we're going to be setting up that are basically going to be on top of our card and interact with the player whenever we pick up the card. So we have our resource cost. I'll go ahead and say 1. It's going to cost 1 point. For now, we have 2 resources, so we're going to try and set that up as well. So basically, when I use one of these cards, and I'll probably have 3 of them, for our testing purposes. So I'm gonna, once I finish this one, I'm gonna duplicate it twice. And then we're gonna try and essentially make a mechanic from scratch of destroying a heart when we use it the first time, destroying the final heart when we use it the second time, and then making it unable to be destroyed or ending our turn automatically when we're unable to do anything. I think the former will probably be the easiest to do, but we'll find out. Essentially, I want to be able to disable our cards. It's going to take a lot of trial and error to figure this out. But yeah, that's what we're thinking about. Cool. So we have our indicator. It says 1 on it. This one says heat spray. Then at the bottom it says deal 1 attack. We can see very, very super basic heat spray 1, deal 1 attack. Now we can hide these. And we'll give it a little bit of color and size. So we'll close the color bracket, close the size bracket. We'll do size equals 14, color equals orange. Then with this 1, yeah, that's fine. We'll keep that. And we just want to make sure these are hidden. And then with our last one, the deal 1 attack, that one seems pretty good. I'll probably make this red. So we'll make the 1 red. We can see that in the game. We have heat spray 1, deal 1 attack. We can see that there were arrows left on the indicators, so I can remove those by going into each of the indicators. Quest cursors disabled, display over disabled, display arrow disabled. I'll probably have display over still on, and we'll uncheck display distance just in case that pops up. And I'll just repeat that process here. Display distance unchecked, no quest cursors. Display over, we want to keep checked just in case, for whatever reason, an asset goes on top of it. We can still read the text. Disable that. And then lastly, the same thing here. Disable, disable, disable. And we'll want to hide that. Save it. Cool, so now we can read it. It says heat spray 1, deal 1 attack. That looks good. I'll probably try to get the text a little bit more uniform. So I would do 24 for the text size. Then I'll try and do a line break here. The line break would allow me to put this on a different line. There we go. So heat spray 1. Doesn't look that clean, but for now we can at least read it. And I think that's all that's important right now. We want to prevent the player from jumping out of this little jail cell we made. Cool. So now we can move on. We have heat spray 1, deal 1 attack. So that means when I pick it up, we'll customize our pickup now. So it has the pickable asset. We're going to parent everything to our main card here. We can see I had the resource number, the title card, and what it does. I'm putting all of these on the parent. So whenever I pick this up, it'll all move with it. Let's see what it looks like in my hands, if I can even pick it up. So right now it's actually too far away from me, so I can't pick it up. We want the offset to be roughly 1 in front of the player. We can see here that the bottom of the card is where my pickable offset is, and that's actually what's causing it to be difficult to be picked up. So I might, in fact, make a new asset that serves as the pickable component. So that being said, let's find a new logic asset. And this is where it's not going to be what I want, but we can tweak it as we go. I'm going to use one of these here. This is just a small kind of white glowing asset. I'm going to put it right in the middle of the card. In fact, I might try it in a couple spaces, such as closer to the player, so closer to the top of the card. So this will be heat spray anchor. So searching through my hierarchy again, I have my anchor. I'll attach my card to that. I don't think I gave it the pickable yet. This will be pickable, so I can pick it up and down. And then it's also going to need that health component, and we're going to remove the health component from the card itself. So hiding the life bar, respawning it at the discard pile when we're done with it. And then with our card here, I'm removing that health bar. Cool, so now I should be able to pick this up. We can see here, no matter what direction I face it, all of the text is relatively legible. It's kind of the effect we're going for. Hey, welcome in, Escape Room Artist. How's it going? You're not late. So it deals one attack, heat spray, etc. So now that we've set that up, we're going to take a look at our frog over here. So our frog has a detector on it. So when it detects a tag, so attack.1 is the tag we'll use, it's going to be spitting out a message, attack.1. So essentially, our card is going to be detected. So we can just attach that tag to the card. It's detected. Our message broadcaster is reading this. And we set all this up last session on Monday. So just a little recap. So essentially, our detector detects the card, sending out the attack.1 message. When the attack.1 message is received, it sends out damage1 to our enemy tag, but only the enemy that is within this yellow radius, which happens to be this frog. Lastly, we see that the damage will not be dealt if, for example, I were to bring this card to the enemy on the right side of the screen. That's the idea we're playing with. I think that makes sense. So we'll go ahead and set up just a really kind of like a mock version of our other enemy. So we see we have one on the left, one on the right, both of which are going to have health components. This one says Frost Toad. Then we have our Lychee. That's that character's name. So his health bar is always available. Cool. Then we have these two assets, a sword and a shield. So we can just duplicate these. I'm holding down Shift to select more than one thing at a time. Move it over. Holding down Shift. Move it over. Nice. All right, had a nice chill weekend. Sounds good, Slater. Yeah, curious if anybody's working on the Sandstorm projects in particular. But there's so many different game jams happening right now. I think there's like 2 active at the moment. The Star Atlas and the Atari, I think, are the 2 active. Care Bears and Ragnarok just ended. So is anybody doing those game jams? I'd love to hear about it. And then if anybody's interested in the Sandstorm competition, take a quick peek at it. This was just announced today, so if you guys are interested in a box edit contest, the theme is mystical creatures, specifically pets. So if you want to make like a mystical, like a Greek god pet or a dragon or any type of magical creature, something only your imagination could do before you got into Vox Edit, well, you can create a faithful partner to join in the TSP adventures. It's got to be a mythical and or fantastical creature. 2 custom animations. Nice prize pool here. But the deadline, October 28th. So if you guys are interested, participating. It's a little competition that Sandstorm's doing right now. So if you want to learn more, just let us know. Mystical or mythical. I mean, both apply, but I think the term was mystical. But both apply. I'd say both apply. All right, so we have our card. So when we bring it over to our frog, it's going to deal damage to the frog. But we're going to test right now. What happens if we bring it over to our lychee? So this shouldn't take long to set up. I'm basically making 2 options. Like A, you can take it to creature number 1, or you can take it to creature number 2. In the future, we'll set up like, oh, this is super effective. You know, like, oh, because this is a grass creature, you know, that deals double damage because it's a fire spell. That's something that's going to come later down the road. But we can see here, the toggle message is all I have to change. So TCG right turns it on, and TCG left turns it off. So we made this little mechanic before, is if my character walks into this blue radius, it's going to turn on any effects on the right side of the game. Or if my character walks into this side of the game, it's going to turn on all of the effects on the left side. Great, so we have our messages, detect entity. It's detecting, you know, each of our various card effects. And when it's detected, if the message broadcaster is currently on, it's going to then deal the damage. And lastly, this needed a tag enemy. It looks like it does. Everything should be set up. We can test it though. Does panda pops count as mythical? Yeah, you should make panda. A popping panda as a pet. Panda pet. Looks like this detector isn't quite detecting me. This one on the left detects me. The one on the right currently is not. So we'll take a look at that. Apparently it doesn't display text. That's probably why. So now it'll display a text. TCG right. So we can see it in action. Left, right. Left, right. The only thing I've noticed so far before, you know, we actually test it, is it auto hides a little bit slow. So we'll speed up the auto hide to like 0.5. So now, if I pick up my heat spray, you can see I was able to bring it over to my lychee, and it dealt the 1 point of damage, but it didn't deal the 1 point of damage to my toad, and vice versa over there. So now I'm going to try and prevent that one. It appears as though only doing it one time. That one's still working. Trying to make the toad also. Toad's also taking damage. Lychee's taking damage. Toad's not taking damage quickly enough. So I think that has something to do with our detectors. But also at the same time, it shouldn't be very quick because we want it to disappear. So we'll adjust the auto hide delay. And then this also needs to be removed from the game, aka respawns on our discard pile once it deals the damage. So we're going to have a new message broadcaster. This one will specifically be to reset any of our cards. That way I can customize it a little bit better. Right now I have a message broadcaster that deals damage. So I want to keep that as only dealing damage. I think beforehand we had one, but I probably deleted it, so we're good. I was cleaning up. We should be okay. All right, so with this message broadcaster, we don't need it to be visible, but instead it's waiting to trigger, and it's triggering when a particular item is being used. So we need to set up each of these message broadcasters to be specific to each card. And I'm trying to think ahead for when, we have cards in the discard pile. What if we have a card that allows us to draw from the discard pile? Well, we want that to be represented. So I'm trying to think about ways to allow us to use cards, multiple times. So discard pile, we need it to be killed. And this tag is what's important. So this tag will be our heat spray.1. So heat.spray.1. We're probably going to have 3 message broadcasters. And each one is triggering specifically when a heat spray is being used. So the message being sent is going to be kill. Broadcast type will be specific tags. Tag will be heat.spray.1. And the wait before broadcast we might be able to use one message broadcaster for all of this. So essentially, this card will be brought into this space. And if the card is in this space, in this yellow radius, it'll receive that kill message. And so we can copy this because it's only going to kill any of these cards that are in this space. And then lastly, the message required that would kill anything in that space is going to be that attack.1 message. Okay, let's test it. We have our heat spray. Pick it up. We bring it to the toad. It's destroyed, removed from our hand. And it respawned in the discard pile. Great. So now we're going to start making presets. With our heat spray, we had this little dot at the bottom as our anchor point. So this is what I would click when we start making a preset. So whatever your parent object is, or your anchor, which is the term I often use, is going to be what you would touch and then click the preset button, which is here on the top left. So this will be our heat spray 1. So now if I were to find our heat spray, put it on the game, we can see it spawns it already pre-made as a parent object. So it works as is. But now I can, touching this preset, edit it without any problems. The first thing I'll do is I'll put this closer to the ground so I can touch it. And then I'm going to name this one Heat Spray 2. And we're going to change all the tags that are relative. One thing we added was like the heat spray title. Unfortunately, whenever you duplicate something or use a preset, it changes the text back to whatever the default title was. Is what it is. But for my own purposes, I do like to track these things. So heat spray anchor. Heat spray 2. Great. So if we take a look here, you can see we have 2 different heat spray cards, both of which can be picked up. Any problems. One thing I can do is customize the indicators to where it says, like, hey, you're picking up heat spray. So I would add an indicator here. And then instead of the display name, I'll do display interaction. This will say heat spray. And then we can disable all these things. Great. Now I'll resave that first heat spray 1. So heat spray 1. So doing the same thing with this one. We'll do display interaction. This will be heat spray, same deal. And we're removing all the display text. It should work. Yeah, because all we want is the custom text when we hover over it. So we can see when I pick this up, it should say on my character, like, hey, that's heat spray. But it doesn't appear to be. So maybe I do need that check mark. Or it could just be another bug. So that would be display over. Just another bug. So the display over tag. Unfortunately, I do not get to read that text. That's unfortunate. Now I'm curious if that's just a me thing. So what if I had a sign here? An indicator. With the display interaction. Okay, so this is what I was looking for, was the E to interact. And I set that up on my heat spray cards, but it's not showing up. So I'm unsure as to why it's not showing up. Oh, I think I know why. So essentially when you have a health component and you have life bar set to hidden, it will not show. So if I put it on hit, now it'll show. Maybe? Maybe it has to be always. Huh. Maybe it's because it's underneath something? Now I'm just curious as to why it's not showing up. It's just not even showing. There it shows now. I think maybe because of the offset. Interesting. Not that interesting, but it's just weird. These things interact. So maybe if I change the pickable offset to be in front of me. So there it is right there. But we can see the card itself. I have to be like right in front of it. Ah, these things. So let's do -1 on the offset. Now I can't even move. Oh well. So for now, not even going to worry about it. Instead, we'll remove these. One thing to note is with the indicator component, it actually replaced the text here. If I were to bring my heat spray back onto the map, Yeah, we can see the display name. So I don't want that. Hey, King, what's happening? Welcome. So anybody out there, if you have questions, feel free to ask about game making. Like maybe there's something you're struggling with. I'm happy to take a detour and help out. No problems. So with our indicator, I'm actually going to remove it because it didn't work for our use, which is kind of sad. But that's okay. We'll make do without it. So now that we set this up, it's waiting for the kill message, hidden death message, has a death delay. I'm going to remove the death delay. And we can test that, see how it feels. So 0 seconds essentially has like a, think of like a breath before it dies. Usually that's akin to like a death animation. So sometimes like a human would fall over, then die. So that's what a 0 second death delay is. It adds that death kind of animation. But if you have a negative death, it can be any negative number. It can be negative whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a negative number, it will remove any type of animation. It'll just instantly kill it. So that's what we want. I'm going to save this as our new preset. And we haven't started using these presets yet, but we will. Essentially, I'm going to start spawning them once we get more into like the deck building aspect. We can see here, still have to change the preset a little bit. So offset, we'll have it at 0. I do want this to be kind of even. Is it going to shine through? No, it doesn't. Cool. So I'll just save my presets one more time. Spray 1. Heat spray 2. So in hindsight, what I would do is probably make this asset have its anchor point at the top of the card rather than at the bottom, because that's what was preventing my player from clicking them. So that's why we had to make that anchor point. You can see here, I'm toggling the left and the right sides. So if I were to bring it up here, it destroys it, putting it at the discard pile. However, it doesn't appear as though it's dealt the damage. So we need to take a look at that. So it's detecting our attack.1, and that sent out the attack.1 message. When it sent out the attack.1 message, our message broadcaster was supposed to deal damage, but it appears as though it had not. So we needed a little bit of a delay here, I think. We'll try it again. So it dealt 1 point of damage. Great. We take the next one. It deals another point of damage. So that works. We'll test it another few times, see if we get that bug again, because it didn't deal damage the first time we tried it. And I also want to set this to a negative death delay. Okay. Dealt the damage. And dealt the damage. It's dealing the damage that we wanted. Perfect. Hey, Money Morrison, how's it going? Is Sandbox better than Decentraland? You didn't hear it from me, but yes. That's only because I'm kind of bullish on Sandbox. Oh, you're probably asking the wrong person. Great, so we're dealing damage. We're spawning the cards. Now I'm going to start setting up the resources. Brownican asks, if there's a what happens first conflict, will a -2 happen before a -1? Or do you mean that there's no difference between -1 and negative 100,000? You know, that's a good question. And that could take a little testing. But in general, here's what we'll do. Is I'm gonna have a couple assets that are right on top of me that are all going to have a variation of health. So we can set up the basics right here. Essentially, all of these are going to have a health component, and they'll all have a different death delay, but they're going to be instant death message will be start.game. This is just a basic message you can attach to anything. But that death message will cause them to die, right? So lastly, we're going to make a sign that will spit out that start message game when I click it. Start.game is the message being spoken. I'll attach it to the sign. Each one of my health components here are going to spawn or die from left to right. And so we can test that, idea, what you're suggesting, Garnican. We'll do a negative 1000 death delay. We'll do a negative 10 death delay. We'll do a negative 1. We'll do a 0. Do a 1. And a 2. So let's just see what happens. So when I touch the sign, we can see that those first 3 all immediately died. So this is where negative timers come into play here. So let me zoom in the camera a bit. So we're on 26 right now. We'll do 12. Oh. Not exiting out. Oh. It's weird, and hopefully you guys learned from my mistake. But I did Control S while still on this menu. So do not hit Control S on this menu. It also seems like hitting S locks this. I can't exit out of this menu. Huh, interesting. Garnican, it's not your fault, but at the same time, it was a fun little exercise. Money Morrison, you do have to download the Sandbox. It's on the sandbox.game website. Oh, really, V? That's happened to you before? I think it's because I was going too fast. I was trying to save at the same time. I was changing a setting. So that was my fault. It's nice to know that I think faster than a computer, though. Looks like we didn't lose too much work. I see we still have our relatively updated presets. But yeah, just to finish that thought, if it's a negative number, no matter what negative number, I usually do -2. It just doesn't matter. So you could do -2, you could do -1, you could do -0.5. They all do exactly the same thing, which is just an immediate death. 0-second death delay has a slight delay because it's accounting for an animation. That's the concept. And yeah, Garnican, not your fault. Great. So let's test these again. It looks like I saved it, guys, so we're good. Sometimes I remember to save. So each of these are now going to be associated with my health numbers here. So this is where things are going to get a little bit complicated. So I'm probably going to be setting up a ball in the basin method. And so this is something I use relatively frequent, where it's an asset that is being caught by another asset, and you duplicate this as many times as you need it to track whatever it is you're tracking. So, for example, I am tracking. What is this lag? What is happening? Something is bugging right now. Blech. Take it. So we have an asset that when it falls past all of our buckets here, these basins, so this ball is going to have gravity on it. And so when it reaches the ground, that means our turn has ended. It's, now the enemy's turn. That's the idea. And so essentially each one of these represents the essence that we're given. And so as the game progresses, the way these games usually work is like you have 3 essences total. Like turn 1, you only have access to 1 essence. Turn 2, you have access to 2 essences, etc., etc. And so if you wanted to, you could spend all 3 of your cards, but then that would mean you have you have 0 essence. And so then the next turn you only have 1 out of 3 essence. So that's kind of like the idea. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of like a normal card game mechanic. So our sign here is going to detect when the ball drops. So the ball is being caught by our basins. Each of our basins has health that is associated with our essence. And when it's destroyed, it's essentially allowing the ball to fall further. So we're going to set up a total of 3. So each one of these will be representing a different essence. So we'll do e.basin.1, e.basin.2, and e.basin.3. I get stuck there? Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have 10 minutes left. If we're popping in late, just keep in mind Sandstorm's doing a contest right now, Vox Edit style. Vox Edit style. So if you guys are interested, learn more about this Sandstorm Vox Edit contest. Mystical creatures is the subject. So if you're interested, up to 5,000 being spread amongst the top 5. First place getting 2,500. So you can make yourself a fantastical pet that is perhaps any animal, a cat, a frog, a rabbit, or maybe even a dragon. So just make a mystical creature, something that might follow the avatar around on their TSB adventures. So you don't need to use the entire size. The pet can be small if you like. But up to 256 voxels. That's actually quite large. I know the player is like 64 tall? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 64. So this is pretty big for a pet. So yeah, you can make it tiny. All right, back to our ball and our basins. So each one of these is going to be tracked by a health component. We're going to be hiding the life bar displays. And so when the player uses any of our 3 cards, so I'm going to set up a 3rd card as well. There's Heat Spray 3. All of these, I think, don't need to change. The only tag that needed to change was that bottom one. So now I can save that as a new preset. Literally, the only difference is the tag. So Heat Spray 3. So when any of those are consumed, we need it to track that specific one was used, but also that any card was used. So this might be a new message broadcaster. So how can we track a death? And not just any death, but a card-based death. Well, we can track it over here in our discard pile. So we can make a detector that can detect any card. So in that case, I might make a new tag. I think we will make a new tag. So all of my cards here are each going to get the tag card. And when they die, they're essentially respawning at our new tag pile, the discard.pile. And so if a card is detected, it's going to spit out a death message. Okay. Hey, Donkoi, welcome in. How are you? So by detecting, Donkoi, it's ironic you're here because you made a card game, and now I'm trying to make, my version of a card game. And so right now, it's definitely a work in progress. But you can kind of see what we're doing here. And I hope to make something unique. So we're associating cards with a detector. So if we do that, I need to also remove those cards permanently. So essentially, if you discard a card, it can only be there until the next card is played. Otherwise, these detectors are kind of useless. Because detectors can't just be kind of like detecting the same card over and over, right? So if that's the case, oh man, this is getting more complicated by the second. I want to kill off a card. But when would I kill it? When would I cause the next card to be killed? Well, the card dies and it respawns. Maybe it has like a timer. If we have it with a timer, it doesn't really help us. I'll need to use like a plant behavior. Or we can set out something with our basins. So our basins, instead of a health component, we could do a toggle plant behavior. So this is going to be like card dot detected, right? I did something similar for this in my Iron Gauntlet game, which still isn't out yet, by the way. Hey, G-Wiz, what's up? So it's at this point where I'm actually kind of I have to think up a new mechanic, which is fun in its own right, but I also don't have enough time left in the show to really go into detail. Essentially, every time one of these cards is respawned, I need it to destroy one of the basins. So only one of these basins is meant to die. So what I can do is I can go in order here. So the ball has already started falling. Ball has gravity. So this first basin, when this one by default is already on. So I don't even have to do anything here. So I don't need a toggle behavior on this first one. The next two will need a toggle behavior. And they're going to be initially off. So we'll get back to these. I'm also going to remove the health components for now. And they're all going to have a plant behavior. And so what will happen is card.detected, first message that comes out. So this detector is going to notice that. So it's going to have a short delay, but we're going to use card.detected as the message. Card.detected is the message being spoken when a card touches here. And so when that happens, I also need my card to be destroyed. So for example, when I detect the card, we can see that message goes out. However, that message is not going to go away. And so that's the new problem. We have a new problem, but right now, basically every time a card is being detected, it's going to destroy one of my basins. When the basin is destroyed, it's destroying based on this one. Oh. You know what I used before? So instead of a plant behavior, I used, and this is where it gets weird, but I kind of want to show you guys because it's interesting. I used a multi-block behavior on each of my buckets. And this is my Iron Gauntlet game, and so this is the mechanic I'm trying to maybe finesse a little bit. So I used a multi-spawn block, and I would spawn lava. The lava specifically allows the ball to continue falling. So that's the important thing to note here, because lava is water. So I need to use different types of water that spawn every time a message is received. And so when the lava spawns on itself, it destroys itself. And that would allow the ball to continue falling. And so the reason why you need this is because I can turn off and on each of these basins. And so with this mechanic here where I'm detecting a card, each time I detect a card, any card, it's doing it one at a time. And the end goal here is the ball will eventually make its way down to the bottom where then the turn ends. And then this entire mechanic can be preset and reset. I don't think that makes much sense until I actually do it. So future Halfd0rk, please make this next Monday. So unfortunately, we did kind of stumble that last kind of 5-10 minutes, but you know, those of you that are game makers, maybe that made sense to you. More or less, I'm just turning off and on a void behavior and a multi behavior, so both void and multi, to destroy each of these basins by turning it off and on. So, you know, a health component allows us to send out specific messages. So by turning on this lava kind of spawner, I'm also able to send out a message that is relative to this basin. So for example, that would turn on the next one. And then this next one could then spawn that card with its own lava. So we'd have a different lava here. And so this one would be on receiving the same message. So they're all going to be receiving that card detected message. And so this is just me giving you a quick example to wrap up the stream here. So they're each receiving that card.detected message, and they're each destroyed by a particular block that they're spawning, and he's sending out the turn on message. So this first one, when it dies, when it spawns lava on top of itself, it's going to send out e.basin.to turn on. We'll probably not use this message, but that's the idea. So that allows this one to then turn on. And then the process continues until the ball finally hits the bottom. That's the idea. It's probably able to be simplified. It's like how you do currency. Yeah, for sure. Currency would be another fun... that's a whole nother problem in itself, but could be fun to explore. Then would you be able to get the discarded card again randomly, or just use it to recycle? So yeah, Vivox, that's going to be one of our future sessions. I have an idea for randomization. Essentially, all of our cards are going to be in a deck. The deck is going to be its own unique asset that you draw from, but off screen, it's going to be a platform going up and down the entire game. And so when you end your turn, it's going to draw from that. So it's basically going to pause the platform and then draw whatever's there. At least that's the idea. What happens if you don't draw something? That'll be a new problem. RNG is fun, exactly. Vivox says, I had a number of cards that can only be used per wave. Then enable the next cards when the next wave starts. Something like that, yeah. I definitely want to make something that uses RNG. And I think the problem is finding the way to create an RNG that fits inside of this card game. And by fits inside of this card game, it kind of like recreates the feeling, of a card game. Where you're drawing, you're discarding, you have a card in your hand that says, oh, pick up the last card you discarded. Oh, you have a card in your hand that says draw one card, stuff like that. So those are the things we're working on. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. We're going to be wrapping up the stream now. It's fun to think about these things. This is what I live for. I really love troubleshooting and finding new mechanics. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. We'll catch you next time.